Welcome to another QPR Fans Our Stories. Here at Hoops and Dreams, we are always looking for those of us who have interesting stories or facts about QPR. Our guest on this podcast may well be familiar to some of you. Let's start by welcoming my guest, who is Alan Woolford. Delighted you agreed to do this podcast, Alan.
That's fine. Thanks for inviting me on.
Perhaps we should start with why fans might well know you. Can you put them out of their misery?
Okay, I do the stadium tours on Loftus Road, and I've also been doing some of the tours at the new training ground for the bondholders.
So to me, this sounds like a real dream job. I mean, do you see it that way too?
Yeah, as a QPR fan, yes. I saw it advertised 2011 on the club website. I knew that a few years later I'd be retiring from my full-time role. So I thought, I'll give it a go, see if I get lucky, And I was shortlisted with 6 people, and I got the gig. Yeah.
Not bad, is it? No. So is it a full-time job?
No, it's part-time. We do various tours at the stadium, and as I said, we've been doing some tours for the bondholders at the training ground as well.
Well, I mean,
So it suits me fine.
well, I can say I've seen you do it, and you do a very good job of it. And you've said you've been doing it since 2011.
Yeah.
So, what did you do before this in terms of a career that sort of led you to this?
Okay, for over 35 years, I worked in local authority youth services.
Ah,
So I worked with young people and community groups. So I'm not sure how, how that worked getting the QPR thing, but yeah, it's funny how things work out sometimes.
yeah, I think you're dead right there. Is this the only role that you've had within the club?
Yeah, that's the only role. I help out on a few other one-off events here and there, but that's my main role. Yeah.
And I've got to ask this: what do you find is the most impressive or surprising about working at the training academy?
Oh, the facilities, going from, we went from one scale to the other, you know, it's just, the best thing that's happened to QPR for a long time, having this state-of-the-art training ground, at Heston, as opposed to what they had before at Harlington, you know. So, yeah, big step forward for the club.
Yeah, I think you're dead right there. Um, I'm glad that we got to hear about your role within the club, and it's one that I know you've done well, and it's a huge positive for the club that you're there. And I know that you do indeed perform that role very well, as I said. But we've got to get on to some questions now, otherwise there's no point to
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
So what we're looking for here is some quick fire answers. Don't think too long about these.
okay.
Um, how long have you supported the R's and why?
Well, this is my 63rd year from my first game at White City Stadium, 1962. Um, yeah, so I'm giving away my age now. But why? Because my granddad supported the club, and our family home was a stone's throw from the ground on the Wormald estate.
Well, I hope you didn't throw stones.
No, but we used to, you can hear the crowd noise, you could see the floodlights lighting up the sky.
Right.
We were literally 4 roads away from the stadium.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Um, do you live now far from West 12?
No, I live in Acton now, so I've only gone down the road, so pretty local.
And do you have a favorite QPR strip?
Oh, like many, it's the Guinness strip. You know, I remember Guinness at Park Royal the
Yes,
factory there.
yes.
QPR used to play at Park Royal many years ago. And in my previous job before I was a youth and community worker, I had to go to Guinness to make some deliveries. And so I remember the big brown building there, and that they had actually had cows in the field behind. That's where they got the milk from.
I don't remember that.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, they had cows in the and so I used to go there once a month on. So I know the building at the time quite well. And it was just great to have such an iconic company on the QPR shirts. So for me, it will always be the Guinness.
That's good enough answer for me. Where would we find you normally sitting if you were traveling to up to Loftus Road?
I'm in the upper loft at the back of PU block.
Always been there?
No, no, it's all been around. I started on the school end, standing, when it was standing terracing, and then moved into the East Paddock when it was standing, then up into South Africa, the main stand, South Africa Road, and then in the loft at various times, and then in the upper loft. Yeah,
That sounds good. And who
yeah.
is the best player that you've watched at Loftus Road and why?
Oh, to me, there's only two, but it's either Stan or Rodney. Um, but for me, I'll go with Rodney only because he was the first one. I saw him before I saw Stan. And Rodney was such a great player, a bit of a maverick, but,
True.
you know, bigger build than Stan, but he had the same balance that, the ball never left his foot. He could, always had an opening for a goal and he could score some special goals. And of course, 67 season, that was my first full season watching the club. He got 44 goals that season.
Was it 44? My God.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow. Okay, following on from my last question then, over the time that you've been following QPR, are there any particular QPR players that you admire?
Oh yeah, quite a few. I liked Nedham, the chief, who was captain of the team for a while. Very articulate, knew football inside out. Always well spoken. You could get a good appraisal of the game from him or what's going on in football in general. So he was definitely one. Um, well, and also I must say Andy Sinton as well for the work because I see the work he does at the club and at the training ground, and he puts his whole heart into it and Rangers through and through. So I have a lot of respect for those two players.
Yeah, I mean, Andy wears his heart on his sleeve, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He does. He does a tremendous job for the club.
I think so too. Excluding the playoff final, what is the best game you can remember? Was it your first game or?
No, I can remember bits of the first game, but the most it was probably a couple games on when we played at White City Stadium, played Bournemouth,
Gosh.
and we beat 4-1 back in '62, I think it was. Um, and I just remember the sheer scale of the stadium, how big it was. It's 68,000 people sitting down. Not that we was getting 68,000 in there, wishful thinking. But it just, for a young guy like me, a young boy, sitting there was just huge. The players were like matchstick men on the pitch. You were so far from the pitch. And that was my sort of early sort of recollections of the games.
That's a good choice. Good choice.
Yeah, yeah.
So who is your favorite QPR manager and why?
Um, Terry Venables, they'll tell. I think he was one of the new breed at the time of managers.
Yeah.
Other managers thought highly of him. You know, you hear players talk about him, how his training sessions were so good. And he was talking about the high press back in the 80s, and players are now doing that. And of course, we had a great 3 years under him. You know, the FA Cup final 82, promotion to the top league 83, and then, of course, fifth place finish in the top flight. I mean, that's all backed up how good a manager he was.
Yeah, I mean, for the reasons, all the reasons that you were saying and more, I would say El Tel as well. He's mine. But anyway, um, let's come back to that Wembley playoff final on the 24th of May, 2014, when Bobby Samora scored that very good goal.
Yeah.
Were you there?
Oh, yes, I was there. If you look at where Bobby was as he shot, I was in the middle tier behind the goal, slightly to the left of the goal, facing the way we were shooting.
There's going to be a lot of people now re-looking at that and re-examining it and seeing if they can spot you, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I'm 6'5". You can't miss me.
Okay, which players do you interact with the most and feel a really good rapport with? Because I know you see a lot of them at the training academy and the
Yeah,
ground.
yeah. Jimmy Dunn, the sort of topic of the moment.
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a very friendly guy. You know, will talk to the fans as they come around. Um, I wouldn't say that apart from Jimmy, you know, it's who you meet on the day. You never know as you turn the corner in the training ground who you're going to see. And they're all, you know, will say hello. And, you know, more perhaps the senior players who are a little bit more hands on with the fans.
Yeah, you know what? I remember doing the tour with you as part of the bondholders exercises we went round. And I vividly remember seeing the guys from the development squad come back in from their training session and talking to us. I was
Yeah,
shocked at
yeah,
how personable they were and how much they were glad that we were there. I was really impressed with them. I mean, I do remember talking to Coley and chatting away
yeah,
to him at that stage. So yeah,
yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah, and you know, you walk around, everybody says hello, even the
Yes.
young players.
Yeah.
It's like I remember Les saying back, you know, that he pulled a few of the youngsters up once because they weren't saying hello to people, and you just don't walk past someone, you know. And that's good. That's a good feel for the club. And, you know, if they get good habits when they're young, that will take them through on their career.
Absolutely right. I agree with you on that. Coming back to you yourself,
Yeah.
do any of your siblings or children follow you in supporting the R's?
Yeah, well, obviously, one of my three daughters follows the club. My two youngest grandchildren. I missed out with the older ones. I should have caught them earlier. Um, but I made sure I nabbed the two youngest. And my sister, although she's in New Zealand, she keeps in touch with the club, and also three of my nephews are QPR fans as well.
Well, I'm sure they'll be delighted to see you on this.
Yeah, they'll be surprised.
Yeah, that would be great.
Definitely.
Okay. Um, Finally, where do you expect the R's to finish this season?
Uh, Around about 12th, I would say. You know, I'll be more than happy with that if that's the case. You know, I didn't get too carried away when we went on that great run, you know, and but I think a big step forward for the club if we can finish mid-table anywhere around there this season. And I can see some green shoots of, you know, good things happening at the club, you know, signing up the young players on contracts.
Yeah.
You know, some of the players we brought in the summer have already proved their worth, and others may need a little bit more time. You know, we got the right manager, got the training ground. Yeah, I think we're going in the right direction.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Obviously you weren't phased when we had the really bad spell at the beginning.
No, no, we've been there before. You know, I, no, I knew the team was better than the results we were getting in some, the majority of the games, and the injuries haven't helped. This year's been terrible for injuries, but it's allowed other players and some of the youngsters to come through. So there's always a silver lining
That's
in
true.
every
You're absolutely
situation.
right.
Yeah.
Well, our time is sadly up, but I know
Okay.
that Alan's labour of love continues, and I want to thank him for taking the time off to talk to us. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And thanks to all of you for watching. And look out for Alan when you're on QPR premises in future. Perhaps if you're doing the stadium tour, it's Alan who normally does it, I believe. And this has been a Hoops and Dreams QPR podcast. And my name is Brian Fisher. Come on, you R's.
You are.